Strategy Show, Monday, December 2nd. We're into the month of December. It is crazy. It's snowing here. New York just got like 20 inches. The seasons are changing.
Lying. For real?
And Manny Laura's in 80-degree weather again.
Yeah, it's like 85 right now when I went to go get coffee. It really is snowing?
Oh, man. Yeah, no question, dude. It's been, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wait, time out. When did you get the Sixers background?
Pretty sweet, right?
No. You should have
Why
you should have a
not?
Heat one.
Why not?
It's pretty. I don't think I noticed this. This has to be new.
Yes. Put it up on Friday. I took down my American flag for the winter from outside, and I put this up. And when my neighbor would walk outside, it was like hitting him in the head, and I felt bad. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'll put it up as a backdrop. Looks pretty sweet, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm glad you like it too.
Yeah, it
But
looks good, dude.
we'll have to get you a
Different.
We'll have to get you a Miami one.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Dolphins, actually, because the
Yeah,
Philadelphia Eagles
Marlins,
suck.
Marlins. At least the Dolphins have a couple wins.
Yeah. Well, ridiculous, dude. They have two fewer wins than the Philadelphia Eagles. Think about that.
I mean, for you think about that, not me.
Oh, trust me, I've thought about it, friend. I thought about it. Anyway, we're glad to have all you guys with us as usual. Do a little breakdown here. Check out the top lineups. What went right? What went wrong? Thanks, DFS Beer Pack. I appreciate you, man. I like it too. But just a wild day. Manny and I were on Sirius XM yesterday. Check us out on Sirius XM, Sirius 210 XM87. If you haven't done so yet, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Saturday, 7 to 9 Sunday. We have a lot of fun. We break everything down. We recap on Sunday, and we set it up on Saturday. And we spend a lot of time talking about, we talk a lot of DFS too. I know most people assume that like SiriusXM Fantasy is mostly seasonal. Well, on our show, we've definitely taken a DFS path, which is a lot more fun during the football season. But we talked a lot about what happened in the Millionaire Maker yesterday, and it may have actually been a worse beat than Manny Laura's Millionaire Maker. Well, not loss, but losing first place a couple years back. It was 2 years back. When we get into this, for any of you that didn't hear or see what happened, it's insane. And we'll tell you exactly how it went down, show you the top lineups, top exposures, what they did right, what we all did wrong, how we can change that going forward, or maybe not change it at all. Nick Foles getting benched. There was so much that transpired. The Tampa Bay Bucks putting up 28 points with no passing touchdowns from Jameis Winston. We got a lot to get into, but before we do, be sure to head over to Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, the sponsor of the NFL Strategy Show, and sign up using the link at awesomeo.com. Go to the NFL tab under articles. You'll see the showdown link for tonight. When you click on that, you'll see the Yahoo link towards the top. Click that link, use the sign-up code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points upon depositing. Get those YSRPs. They're as good as cash to be used on the site to play and win real money. You get in the $25,000 NBA baller tonight, $5K to first, $10 to enter. Or you can hold out for the $200,000 NFL baller, $10 to enter, $20K to first. You got CSV uploads and edits now, 150 max on that. But also some no veteran contests and some no management fee contests. A couple of them, like the $3, they fill up quick, so be sure to get in on that. Everything that's paid into the contest by the player gets paid out to the player. So some really cool contests over there. It's also the only place where you can become a baller. Use the sign-up code AWESEMO. Use our link. We'll throw it in chat. Get those YSRPs up to $30 upon depositing. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the NFL Strategy Show. All right, Manny. We got people with us.
Let's do
Happy
it.
to talk. They're waiting to break it all down. And it was a pretty wild week. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think if you kind of just followed the book this weekend and did what you were supposed to do, didn't get too different, I thought you had a pretty good Sunday. I think a lot of the chalk did very, very well. There were good plays across the board. And if you just went with the correct way, the optimal ways of making lineup this weekend, I think you had a very nice weekend.
Yes, sir. Man, I want to get into the lineups and break down lineup study because that's always fun
Sure.
coming off of any week. But dude, the Bucks scored 28 points, 2 touchdowns defensive, 2 of them for Peyton Barber. The Kansas City Chiefs, if you told me they were going to score 40 points, like you would expect a whole lot more. If I told you that the Eagles were going to lose by a touchdown to the Miami Dolphins, it was in Miami, but there were way more Eagles fans. But he told you that Nick Foles, after 2 games back, was going to get benched for Gardner Minshew. Or if I told you that, the Chiefs score 40 and none of it basically goes to Kelsey or Tyreek Hill, and LaShawn McCoy had a touchdown, but he didn't really do that much. It was just a wild week from start to finish. Oh, and the big one, chat's talking about this right now, and I'm glad they are because it's huge. The Christian McCaffrey thing, man. Like, I told you, I know some guys that had almost 100% of him. I had around 60% of Christian McCaffrey. You would certainly think that against the Washington Redskins in a game where you're 10.5-point favorites, that something like this would not happen where he finishes with fewer than 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, no, pretty crazy weekend, I think. McCaffrey was probably in the best spot or one of the best spots he can possibly be. And I know he's matchup proof, so it doesn't really matter, but it also it makes us feel it doesn't even make us feel at ease. I feel at ease anytime I roster the guy, but yesterday was just like, all right, this is a no-brainer kind of. It's the Redskins, so just plug and play if you can fit him in. And yesterday it didn't really work out. So I mean, I did have a bunch of him. It was obviously tough watching it. You can't really be mad at him for one bad performance, right? I think we talked about it yesterday. The last time he had a bad performance was week 2. So I mean, it'd been a long time since you got a dud from McCaffrey, and it came at an opportune time for the season-long guys. And if you rostered him yesterday in DFS, it was kind of rough. But there were more disappointing performances. And then when you're like me and you couple all of them together, you have a really, really bad Sunday. So it happens. It happens to the best of us. I think I was also, you talked about Jameis for a little bit. I was on Jameis a ton. Had a lot of Mike Evans. So I think Mike Evans ended up being my highest owned player, period. And that was obviously a no-no. I had a lot of Patrick Mahomes and Nick Foles to round out my quarterbacks, and it was just, well, anything you can do, I can do worse. Jameis didn't do anything. Nick Foles got benched, and then somehow the Chiefs scored a ton of points, and nothing came via Mahomes. So
it's really crazy, man. I feel like, and I'm going to keep doing it because they're great, and they're both 1,000-yard receivers on the same team. But, man, if there are 2 guys that from week to week I have not gotten right, it's Mike Evans and it's Chris Godwin. And look, I'm playing 150 plus lineups. I have both of them, but each week I generally never have the same amount of both. You know what I mean? And a lot of times pricing is different. Matchups are different. When you go Godwin heavy, Mike Evans erupts. When you go heavy, Mike Evans, Godwin's erupts. When you don't go either of them, both of them erupt. When you go both of them, neither of them do anything. I mean, they have been such a difficult duo to get right. And what's crazy is the volume is pretty heavily concentrated on that team. But yesterday, Brashad Perriman and O.J. Howard are your leading receivers. First time that's happened all season long. Right? And then Peyton Barber gets 2 touchdowns. That's just not something you can predict against Jacksonville.
At what point do I just say, because it feels like I've been saying this forever, right? It's at what point do I just say, oh, variance killed me. Don't worry. Process is good. Oh, variance again. Oh, I got the worst game out of this guy. Oh man, next week that won't happen. And it's just like, okay, I've been saying that for a lot of weeks now. You know what I mean? So it's when you see things like this, it's not even that they had a whatever week and they got 15, 16 or whatever. Like, no, they're down on like 4 fantasy points, 5 fantasy points, 6 fantasy points. They're not even close to min cashing at this point. It was just frustrating. Nick Foles, I think, finished with negative, I believe. Like, it was stuff that at least get me 10. Not even, because 10 wouldn't do anything anyway. But like, it's just frustrating. I didn't even think this was in the range of outcomes, really. And here I am rostering Nick Foles with virtually nothing. Mike Evans, you mentioned, it's been so frustrating. Yesterday I was on him again. I think that's 2 weeks in a row where I'm on Mike Evans heavy, and it's virtually nothing from him.
Yes, sir. So I want to pull up the Millionaire Maker here. We got lineup study running and break all of this down. If it makes it easier, if you're on a computer or something, maximize the screen. It'll make it a bit easier to see it with this screen share. But before we get into the top lineup and what he did right and what his lineup and exposures looked like, he had 150 lineups, by the way. I want you to explain what happened. Mike Campbell says, so Laffy, you happier with Wentz for long-term or Foles back for long-term? Dude, no. To pretend like Foles is a big upgrade from Wentz is a lie, but Wentz has regressed big time, and I'm not happy with him, but I can't imagine I'd be happy with Foles either. So there's your answer. But I try and be realistic. Manny, I want you to talk about what happened in the Millie Maker, because your beat that you had a couple of years ago, first tell everyone that doesn't know what happened to you, and then what happened yesterday in what you actually considered live on air on SiriusXM Fantasy on Awesemo Radio. You actually considered this to be worse than your beat, which we weren't sure could actually happen.
Yeah, so I have what many consider probably the worst beat in DFS, right? I had first place pretty much all but locked up. I even got the message from DraftKings to get someone to record me, right, winning the millie, so they can get my raw reaction or whatever. So there I am with my brother getting. I mean, he's filming me, and it was one of those where I'm just counting down the seconds. Someone, I think it's Arizona, just scored the game, a long field goal with like 5 seconds left. And when I turn up, all I needed was a field goal to go through for the game to be over. The field goal went through, and I thought the game was done. Problem is the scorekeeper left 1 second on the clock. Usually they just run that extra second down, right? When you kick a field goal at the end. They didn't, so they were forced to kick off. In that kickoff, the teams just start lateraling. And one of those laterals, I think it fell to the floor, and one of the Arizona Cardinals players landed on it. And I always say this, I'm pretty sure he didn't, but whatever. They gave him that he landed on it, ended the game. But that also counted as a fumble recovery for the kicking side, which was Arizona. And the guy behind me, the only thing he had left was the Arizona Cardinal defense. It counted as a fumble recovery, and that gave him 2 points and ended up beating me by half a point. And I dropped from 1 million. It was actually 150,000, not 100,000. So it was 150,000 to second. And it was, they stack corrected it because they didn't know who actually recovered that fumble at the end. And I had to wait 30 minutes after the game was over to realize, well, you got stack corrected there. Now counting it a fumble recovery. And I lost $1 million on what I thought was a bogus play. No reason for the play to even happen, right?
Horrible.
So I heard it everywhere the next day. I heard it for like a week straight. The worst beat we've ever seen. It was for $1 million. Yesterday.
Well, hold on real quick. E-Rush in our YouTube chat says, Manny's bad beat still the worst. I don't give a F.
I've never seen anything like it. And for the stakes that were there,
it was terrible. But I think there are a couple ways you could argue that yesterday's was as bad, if not worse, particularly because of where he fell from where he fell from to where he fell from. Go ahead. You just set it up what yours was. Now let's hear about what happened yesterday.
Yeah, so we're on air and we're sweating out the millie, and it's funny because you were talking about, the Raiders are here at the 4-yard line or whatever. They're about to score, but the game's over. It's 38-3, so it doesn't really matter. They score a touchdown, and for the longest time, I just kept refreshing to see what the final score would be so we could say it on air, but it wouldn't change from 9 to 10. And then all of a sudden, I look up, and there's someone running into the end zone for the Chiefs, and I say to myself, wait, the Chiefs somehow just scored while you were going, and I look at the replay, and they blocked the extra point, and they recover and go all the way for a 2-point conversion on the other side. Again, it's 38-3, or at this point 38-9, so it doesn't matter. When it changes to 40-9, I see something in the Millie Maker that I don't think I've ever seen before. And it wasn't Carney who was in first place. Carney 259 was in first place. The two behind him, not one, two behind him had both the Chiefs in their lineup. It was the same lineup. They both had the Chiefs. This awarded the Chiefs not just a blocked field goal, 2 points. It also rewarded them in a 2-point conversion, I guess is how they're ruling it, since they returned it all the way for a 2-point conversion. I don't know. So it was actually 4 points. He was up by 3.6 points. And literally, I think the only thing that could knock him out was a blocked extra point and a return for a 2-point conversion.
Never happens.
Which I don't. Has it happened this season?
I'm sure because you can do it on 2-point I'm sure it's happened before. But the crazy thing is, this has only been a rule since 2015. Like this is very, very new to the league that you can even run it back for 2 points. That's never the case outside of the last 4 years.
Right. So that's the last game going, and that's what happens at the very end of a game that's a blowout with backups in. It almost didn't matter at all. And then to add insult to injury, he didn't go 1 million to 150 like I did. He went 1 million to 40,000 because 2 people had the same lineup, and he dropped from first to third.
$960,000 swing on a ran back blocked extra point in a game that wasn't even close to being competitive.
I feel for the guy, man. I was ready to punch a hole in my wall. I get it, and people are going to say, because there's already someone in YouTube chat, wait, but how much did you win? That's not the case, right? Like it's the principle. Like you were there for the last second of the game, the slate, the entire, and it's something so random to happen. First of all, why are the Chiefs trying to block the kick anyway? The game's over, right? Like why are you even trying at that point? But I guess play till the whistle or till the game's over. But I mean, what a way to lose. I don't think I've ever seen that. And then to drop to third, I mean, now that's just brutal, man. That's horrible.
I know. It's like an unimaginable beat. Josh Engelman and I talked about it on today's NBA show, the strategy show. It kind of kicked the show off with that. And Josh was like, I might not be there the next day.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you don't want to wake up, dude. I remember it happened to me. You can't sleep for 2 days, man. I'm not kidding. You cannot sleep for 2 days.
And yours like 1 million to 150K. You hate when I say this, but like at least there was almost $150,000. You came away with something. It's still as brutal as anything, and I'll never take that away from you. But 1 million to 40,000. Like most people, there's so many people out there to be like, dude, you still won 40K. Yeah, but $1 million, like $1 million.
It's the whole Manny, but you and for me it was I also kind of had it that way too, because everything I entered, it wasn't only the Millionaire Maker. Everything I entered had the same lineup in first in all of them. And the same guy passed me with that same thing in everything I was playing.
Yep.
So it wasn't just one. It wasn't the Millionaire Maker. It was
I believe I think
it was the Qs. It was the 9s, the 5s. Everything had the same lineup, and the swing was just like man. It was. I've never felt something like that before. Playing DFS, I've never felt something like that before.
Yep. Unbelievable. Yours and then this one, 2 of the worst I've seen. Both of them in the Millie Maker too, which makes it even worse.
Yep, I think I pass him the crown, man. I'm ready to say I think that takes it, dude. I don't think there's been a worse one than that one.
Yes, sir. By the way, people talking about weather, Anthony said I didn't play anyone in that game because of the wind. You know what? I mean, Aaron Rodgers still had a really solid game in a blizzard. So I still stand by. I don't really care about the weather as much as a lot of other people do. We've seen
shady games run for 200 and feet of snow.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. You can use weather to explain away why players did bad. And then I could pull up just as many games where their play wasn't affected at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
And same thing with like revenge games, dude. How many revenge games have you seen where there's a huge game and then I'll just be like, oh, what about Mike Conley against Utah? Or I'm sorry, Memphis this year. Did nothing, So the problem is you can't, like, how do you put it into your projections? Let Vegas do the talking and something like that.
Right.
And so Andy said, well, it worked, so WTF. Yeah, look, that's what I say.
I mean, it could work or not work. There's only 2 answers, right?
But if you faded Devontae Adams or Rodgers in spots because of the weather, it didn't work.
Right, correct. So there's I talked about it a little bit yesterday too, and I never account for weather because I always mess up, man. I always mess up. And I
That's me
said this.
too.
It's
I
funny
just
because
always get it wrong. So
yeah, you think the KC game, Andy Reid is saying, "Oh, it's raining." Mahomes in the headset, you cannot throw the ball today. Nope. 3rd and 8, Mahomes. No, it's raining, guys. Can't throw. Can't throw. No. He might throw an
yep.
interception. I mean, like, come on. People are gonna throw the ball as many times as you want, whether it's raining, snowing, hail, whatever you want. There's still. I mean, I'm still throwing it if I was Andy Reid. I don't care.
Of course. Timothy says revenge game is a narrative. Weather is not a narrative. No, it's not a narrative. That's not the point I'm making is that unless you're using Vegas, which is fine in terms of weather, like altering projections because of how you think weather is going to play out is the same as altering projections because you think a guy is going to play differently because of a specific situation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Vegas is pretty darn accurate, whether people want to believe it or not, right? They feel they can beat Vegas all the time, so they don't trust Vegas. Don't do that. Trust Vegas.
All right, good. You want to see the Millie Maker winner?
Let's do winners. Because plural.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh my God, that's it.
Winners.
They split it. Was it the same lineup or just the same?
It was
score?
The same lineup. Yes.
Same exact lineup. Wow, on an 11 gamer, huh?
Yep. They had your boys, man. Alshon Jeffrey to Carson Wentz and Miles Sanders.
So let's take a look. Carson Wentz, Christian McCaffrey. This is in the winning lineup.
Yep.
Miles Sanders, Alshon Jeffrey. So paired, and mind you, Miles Sanders had a receiving touchdown.
Yep.
Alshon Jeffrey, Devontae Parker, Dede Westbrook, Tyler Higbee, Devontae Adams, Chiefs D. So what we have here is a 4-player, including quarterback, Eagles-Miami stack. Christian McCaffrey was in the winning lineup, though. How about that?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. And a lot of that is because when Manny and I, in a little bit, we're going to get to the DraftKings perfect lineup on LineStar app. Wait till you see the salary. Wait till you see what the salary is on this. It'll blow your minds. And it kind of just goes to show you here, Manny, that this was a week where you could have a floor game from Christian McCaffrey and still have him in all of the tournament winning lineups.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where so many of the mid-tier guys or even the value guys did so well that you could still pay up for McCaffrey, and even if he didn't have a good game, you were still in a really good spot. I mean, the Higbee play was huge. Alshon 31, Devontae Parker, and none of those guys were 6K. Higbee, let alone 3K, right? So all these guys, 21 from Miles Sanders, were all hovering around the 5K range to the point where you could fit in McCaffrey easily. And he didn't even need to do that crazy. Now, if he did get 35 fantasy points, now you're what, at 250 almost? And that was obviously a massive score. So, man, huge scores today. And you're totally right. He was in there without being, Christian McCaffrey. He almost scored the least. Actually, he did score the least in that lineup. The lowest scoring player in that lineup was Christian McCaffrey.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Dwayne Tomka says, man, nothing really crazy won. And I think he means like there wasn't anything in this lineup that was completely bizarre. And he's right. There's nothing in this lineup that stands out as, oh my God, how lucky. Actually, kind of chalky, right?
Yep. Very chalky.
Devontae Adams, 27%, Higbee, 25%, Jeffrey, 17, Sanders, 30, McCaffrey, 41, Wentz, 8, but we don't see quarterback exposure get all that high or ownership get all that high anyway. This is a lot of popular plays. Even Parker, I don't think he had anyone below 10% other than the Chiefs D and Wentz, but no skill players.
Yep, I think this was one of those cases where you just play exactly what you're supposed to play, right? If you're playing Wentz, pair him with some pass catchers, run it back with the best player in Miami, that'd be Parker, and then fill in the rest of the lineups with really good plays. Dede was fine. Higbee obviously at tight end was the value play. Sanders was pretty chalky too, but good. Devontae Adams was one of the most popular players on the entire slate, and then if you're paying up, Christian McCaffrey's your guy. Yeah, you're right. Didn't seem too crazy at all.
So exposures here, it'll be interesting to look at exposures from the first place guy and the second place guy and see if these were see if they have pretty similar player pools or they just kind of landed on this. Because you and I have seen this a lot where the winning lineup will have like 1% of 5 guys in that lineup, and he just hit the nuts with nothing. So Wentz, he had 30%, only 4 quarterbacks. How about this, Manny?
Yep.
Wentz, Goff, Dalton, Nick Foles. Then McCaffrey at 60%, Sanders at 57%, Le'Veon Bell, Barkley, Lindsey, Jones. I actually have very similar exposures to this guy so far. A lot of D.D. Westbrook, a lot of Cooper Kupp, Kirk. God, I'm very, very similar to him, except I had less Higbee than he did. I had like 30%. He had 63%. Goddard was my second highest owned. Wow, this is strange. Except he won the million and I didn't.
Hey, you could have been a millionaire yesterday, man.
Yeah, how about that? Not gonna happen. But actually, yeah, pretty similar. He ran. You know what's very interesting though? Let's take a look at this. He ran a very tight player pool.
Yep.
Right?
He really did. He didn't from quarterback to running backs. Like usually we see players just have a ton of differentiation, right? And he just, I don't know, man. He wasn't there. He used 59 players in total. Pretty darn good.
Wow.
I think he just trusted his stuff yesterday.
I've ran a couple limited player pools on certain slates this year where he'd be at like, or where I had around like 65. But yeah, this is really low. Solid lineup though. And look, it was chalky. Sometimes it doesn't work. Chalk won. Let's take a look at MTW though. He played one lineup, so forget about his exposures. Wow.
Stud.
Wow.
First of all, to tie with one lineup, that must, I mean, listen, again, $550,000 is a lot of money, but man, to tie, that's bad luck, man. Like, how are you going to have the nuts and somehow someone ties you for the nuts?
That's crazy. That's dude.
First of all, that takes tremendous skill, man.
Bill Bruce in YouTube chat says 150 lineups for the winner. Yeah, for the first winner. The guy that tied him for first had one lineup.
Yep.
One lineup.
Skill game, dude.
Unbelievable. So Carney 259, he's the one that lost out on first, right, Manny?
Yeah, Carney 259. Yep.
So his lineup was Wentz, Derrick Henry at 4%, Sanders, Jeffrey. So far 3 of 4 to the winner. Cooper Kupp, Devontae Parker, Tyler Higbee, Leonard Fournette, and Rams D. He finished how many points outside of 0.4 points?
Yep.
0.4 points
outside. I'm telling you, that blocked kick and return was the worst thing that could have happened.
Unbelievable. Dude. He had a lot of Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson, 14% Wentz, 15% Murray. That was basically a wasted one. Christian McCaffrey and 67%. You're going to see a lot of good, like top players playing a lot of Christian McCaffrey yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
But by the way, I don't want to be the guy that says this again, because I feel like I say this every week, but he lost $1 million to a defense, dude.
I know.
I mean,
so did you,
man. So did I. I mean, I feel that should not be in the game. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but and it's not like he picked a bad defense, right? His defense, the Rams, got 18. And then the last play was the only thing that gave him an extra 4 points. That's very unfortunate, man. Like, and I think there's no skill to that. There's no skill to that because just leaving a team to score 3 or 9 points does nothing for you. You need the turnovers and you need the touchdown. It's very random, man. That sucks, dude. That really does suck.
Christian Kirk was his highest owned wide receiver. He burned me, man. I had a good amount of Christian Kirk, and he was just terrible. Then Alshon, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. So he had a lot of Woods. He had a lot of Kupp. Devontae Parker, Tyler Boyd, Mike Evans, D.D. Westbrook. I had a really similar exposures to most of these guys. Now, I had so how much Henry did he have? 12%. I didn't have much Henry at all. And again, he had more Higbee than me. I think that's what did me wrong on this slate. Pretty much everywhere else, outside of the Foles that I had, because that was just dead, didn't have as much Higbee. And there are a lot of people in chat saying Tyler Higbee was a plug and play, no brainer. You know what? Maybe you're right.
Yep. We took an L on that yesterday.
Yeah, I like I said, I'll take the L on that. Skylar says, can you guys talk about Higbee value and your thoughts on getting even with the field or under due to high ownership? Yeah, look, he's cheap. He had a good matchup, and I'm willing to say I probably should have had more based on the scenario. Now, it was literally the best game he's ever had, and even in games where Gerald Everett was healthy, I pointed this out to you on Sirius. There were a ton of games where they like combined for 5 targets.
Yep.
So, like I said, you take the matchup, all of that, willing to take the L there, but ceiling game for Tyler Higbee. So if you had a lot of him, there you go. I came in around the field a little bit over it, and you basically needed a ton of him if you were to be at the top, or you just needed to nail it.
It was one of those things there where if you faded any chalk yesterday, like even from Higbee down to even Devontae Parker, and I'll say Parker because he had some pretty decent ownership too, right? He was 12% owned. Alshon 17, Miles Sanders 30, Devontae Adams almost 30, Higbee 25. If you faded any of that, I mean, you lost every single one of them because they all did well, So we're hindsighting right now, and listen, I know there was also some really good players that didn't play Higbee, right? I mean, if you thought he was going to be 30-something% owned, then it was a tough decision to make. Maybe if you're factoring in ownership. If you were not, then Higbee was you're right, a plug and play with the best matchup. You want to talk flow chart or whatever people want to call it. I mean, they are the very worst against tight ends. They're off what happens every single week, and the guy was 2.5. It was just one of those plays where everyone was going to have him, and you wanted to see if you can just be a tad bit different. And yeah, it kind of bit you the same way every other chalk play bit.
Yep, certainly did. We can take a look at one of the higher dollar ones. Those are kind of fun to look at, right? Because it gives you an idea of what some of the best players, or a lot of these guys are some of the best.
Yep.
Which one is this? The luxury box, right? This is the one we usually take a look at.
Yep. The 3K.
Pull up the luxury box and see what we got. Did you see who won this one?
Utica?
Again. What a good
always.
player.
he always wins.
I mean, am I crazy to say this guy's very good?
I mean, yeah, he's been very good for a really, really long time. So yeah, no doubt about it.
I always see him towards the top.
Yep.
So this was I'm assuming this was a 8 entry max. He entered 4, and he won with 212. So keep that in mind too. 268 entries. A lot of times you don't need that high of a score to win. He won it with a 212.9. Wentz, Sanders, Barkley, Alshon, Devontae Parker, Sterling Shepard, Tyler Higbee, Christian McCaffrey again, and the Chiefs D. All of these top lineups, Manny, it's the Wentz, Sanders, Jeffrey Parker game stack.
Yeah, for sure. I think you needed that, right? And it even helps that Wentz threw the touchdown to Miles Sanders. You mentioned that earlier. So that was huge. Anytime you can get the correlation like that. And picture this too. Whenever you have a 4-man stack, or in this case, a 3-man team stack, 4-man would be the opposite side. So Devontae Parker in this case. Anytime you have 3 from the same team, including the quarterback, it's if you can somehow nail the throwing touchdown to a running back, you are in such a big advantage because you didn't have to take up another receiver spot to try and nail it, and you could save an extra receiver spot for any other good receiver on the slate. Say not just Devontae Parker, but it could have been Robert Woods or I don't know, Sterling Shepard did whatever, but you could have picked another really good wide receiver. You still have room at tight end. You still could flex another running back if you wanted to. Like, it gives you so much flexibility to where if you picked your quarterback with 2 of his own wide receivers, say Alshon, and say you put Aguilar in there, and then you still ran it back with Devontae Parker, all of a sudden you used all 3 receivers on your game stack, and it's exponentially riskier than, say, using a running back and leaving an extra wide receiver spot to do whatever you want. If you can nail that one, you'd be in a really good spot, and yesterday worked out for those guys.
No question. Miles Sanders should have had a much bigger game too.
Sure.
Doug Peterson decided to throw the ball 72 times in a game, or 72% of the time in a game that they were leading by 2 touchdowns. I mentioned this to you yesterday. There's no doubt that Miles Sanders should have had a monster game here.
Yep.
He averaged 4.9 yards per attempt. Every time he ran the ball, he picked up at least 5 or 6 yards. He was involved in the passing game, had a receiving touchdown. You're playing with the lead and you decide that you're going to stop running the football. Sanders should have easily gone over 100 yards rushing. Should have been a 30 fantasy point plus game for him.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned they were up 2 scores at one point against the Dolphins, and you're not running the football. I don't know what you're doing. I think it's one of those where you kind of want to flex a little bit, and the flex just bites you big time because the Dolphins are a bad team. So I get it. You want to flex a bit or whatever, but I don't know. If you're not going to run it with Sanders, run it with a Jai or something like revenge, anything you want. Run it with someone. I don't care who it is at that point. They didn't do that. They kept trying to throw it. They punted twice. The Dolphins answered with 2 touchdowns, and all of a sudden they're down, and they couldn't come back, man. Devontae Parker was way too good. Apart from your defense and corners being awful, Devontae Parker had himself a game, and there's your win for Miami.
There it is. Yep. Utica had 1 Dalton, 1 Wentz, 1 Goff, 1 Jackson. We see this a lot. Have you noticed in these high dollar contests, a lot of your top players will, if they have like 4 entries, they'll have a different quarterback in all of them, and they really space it out. And then they'll have a lot of, like, he only had 3 running backs in 4 lineups, man. Barkley, McCaffrey, and Sanders. Wide receivers, he spread it out. And then tight end, Doyle, Higbee, and Kittle with Panthers, Chargers, Chiefs, and Giants. So look, 4 lineups, 4 different defenses, 4 different quarterbacks, and 3 different running backs. This is the type of stuff that can be valuable because it goes to show you which positions they value the most, and which ones they're willing to get different at. Ricky D, how about finished towards the top in this one, 4th place. He had 8 lineups. His exposure was, here you go again. Look, 8 different quarterbacks in 8 lineups. Look at that. Now he spread out running backs a little more, but he had 7 Miles Sanders in 8 lineups. You'll always see them go very high on 1 or 2 running backs. And we saw this with Sanders and McCaffrey with Ricky D and Utica. Spread the receivers out, tight grouping of tight ends, Higbee and Waller, and then 4 different defenses. So it's a very interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, every time I get those questions about single entry or 3 max or 5 max, even 20 max, I'd say at least in NFL, differentiate as much as you can at quarterback, man. Differentiate because in these smaller fields, maybe some more high stakes stuff, the field is so concentrated on playing the optimal lineup sometimes that, you know, all these other pairings, all these other games are so they have so much value in them. So yeah, it's not like you have to fade the complete obvious chalk or whatever, but you could also with your 3 or 4 other entries just differentiate a little bit. I mean, some really like taking risk and say playing 3 of just Jameis Winston in all 3, but it doesn't make much sense, especially if you want to minimize your risk, right? Just switch it up a little bit. All it takes is 1. In that case, Ricky D only cashed 1 lineup, but it was good enough to leave him profitable in the tournament, right? And all it takes is 1 in these tournaments. That 1 could get there more often than you think, considering it's a smaller field. So don't be afraid to differentiate at all.
Right. Yeah, you're right. He cashed 1, still like a $6,000 or $7,000 profit. Yeah. Very interesting, man. Let's do. Let's take a look at the perfect lineup on DraftKings. I found this to be really, really interesting. We'll take a look on the Yahoo one as well.
No one would ever play that.
Never. Before we do, though, if you're not checking out the Cyber Monday promo that we have going on at Awesemo, I don't know what to tell you. If you use the sign-up code Cyber Monday, all one word, you get an Awesemo Plus Platinum Weekly Pass for $1. $1. It expires tomorrow at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, December 3rd at 2 a.m. Eastern, which is Tuesday morning. So after midnight today, for those of you that aren't good at clocks, use the promo code Cyber Monday. You get Awesemo Plus Platinum Weekly Pass for $1. It's our Cyber Monday $1 special. No reason not to get in on that. It's a beautiful thing, and we hope you join us over at awesemo.com. Also, free content today, the Game Plan live stream. Awesemo Game Plan live stream with Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, NFL Showdown rankings, and the NHL lineup builder. Head over to awesemo.com. Get that Cyber Monday deal. Cyber Monday, one word, $1 special. Awesemo Plus Platinum Weekly Pass for $1. $1. We'll throw the link in chat. I think we already did. So here it is, Manny. Incredible. $43,000 of a $50,000 cap. The perfect lineup was Ryan Fitzpatrick, Derrick Henry, Darius Geis, Alshon Jeffrey, Devontae Parker, Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, Raheem Mostert, and the Buccaneers defense.
Unbelievable. 43,000 in salary. That's like a full player. That's like saying you have another Derrick Henry that you didn't use.
Devontae Adams was $7K. Like you could have played Devontae Adams.
You have Devontae Adams worth of not being used in your lineup. That's crazy. Unbelievable.
It's crazy. And there was one player higher than $5,700. That was Derrick Henry. Nobody else. Can you believe that? You never see that.
No, never. And it was a value tier that was just so strong, man. Like the 5K range, you had a field. Anytime you play the Dolphins and there's a team that hasn't done well, like the Eagles, and none of their guys are priced up because they don't have all-stars on their team, it's just like, okay, well now Alshon all of a sudden, like this is probably the only week Alshon has been relevant or like chalk before lock, right? And it's like, okay, Alshon is relevant because he's playing the Dolphins. Next week, nobody will be talking Alshon again. Like that's just how it goes. And all these guys, I mean, Miles Sanders too, when you think about it, Alshon's in the winning lineup here. Devontae Parker in that same game. All of these guys are sub 6K. Robert Woods, 6K. That team had been struggling. Higbee had just gotten off of injury or benefiting from an injury. He's minimum salary. Like, and then Raheem Mostert's fluky game. Like, I don't know. It's just crazy, man.
Against Baltimore, nonetheless.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's some of the stuff. But by the way, the Bucks had 23. I don't even know how, but they did.
I mean, when you're Foles and you throw 2 picks and fumble twice in the first half, bad things happen.
Yeah, just so crazy to see.
On Yahoo, our sponsor, it was $149 of the cap. Deshaun Watson, Darius Geis, James White. This is, of course, includes the late game. James White had a monster game, man.
Yeah, he did.
Alshon Jeffrey, Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, Raheem Mostert again, and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Manny, it's insane. Do you know what the budget is? The salary cap on Yahoo is $200.
So like 51 without being used. That's like two quarterbacks.
Think about this for a second. This is what's wild about it. 26% of the cap was unused in the perfect lineup. 26% of the cap.
Yeah, you could almost fit in 2 quarterbacks in there. Or if you want to say like an extra Devontae Parker, man, you could get like 2 Devontae Parkers and a half.
Yeah. Yes. You could have played another Deshaun Watson with another James White.
Yeah, you could have done the same thing. Deshaun Watson with Devontae Parker.
Wow.
That's so crazy. That's nuts.
Higbee minimum salary, Mostert 12. And again, when you look at these perfect lineups, it's not like you're ever going to land on something this crazy,
right.
but it's fun to look at what the best lineup would have been and how much it would have cost. Geis 17, White 15, Parker. Everyone was under 20 except Deshaun Watson, and quarterbacks are never priced under 20. I mean, you couldn't get to that in your wildest dreams.
No, yeah, impossible. There's no way you make a lineup like that and be like, oh, this looks good. I'm going to leave $51 on the table. We're good. Let's do this. Let's rock.
That's crazy. 74% of the cap is just like...
before everyone starts making Yahoo lineups, leaving $30 to $50 on the table.
I thought using 86% of the cap on DraftKings was crazy. 74% on Yahoo is out of control. Anyway, we got a few minutes to go here. What else do you think what else do you want to look at? Any specific tournaments?
Well, kind of looking at the guys that kind of did poorly a little bit, right? We talked about all the guys that did very well.
What contest do you want me to go to so the viewers can see it?
What was that?
What contest do you want me to go to so the viewers can see it?
Not a DFS player specifically, or it doesn't have to be a contest, but maybe players in general that just did poorly in real life.
Sure.
Like
Go ahead.
The for me, and because I know a lot of people resonate with this too. It's a lot of winners. People see a lot of winners, but the guys that did lose money, it's just like, well, what am I doing wrong? I feel bad, and they get down or whatever. I mean, I lost yesterday. I lost big time. I barely cashed any lineup. It's frustrating. If you were on Nick Foles, was it a bad play? I don't think so. It just didn't turn out well at all. Jameis Winston, unfortunately, they scored a ton. He didn't score anything. For me, Mike Evans was my highest. He had virtually nothing. Jameis Winston didn't throw a touchdown, so he didn't have anything. I had Mahomes didn't really do much. There were so many guys for me that was just like, dude, I'm dudding at every position, and here I see the leaderboards. Everyone's doing well. Okay, back to the drawing board. I mean, I pretty much failed miserably yesterday with barely anything cashing. It happens. If you're on a rut like I am, I mean, all we can do is continue to power through it and move on to next week, man, because you can harp on this for a long time, and I know it's from Sunday to Sunday, so you got to wait another 7 days to do it again. But let's continue to get better and work on our game and the process, and hopefully it doesn't happen next week, right?
For sure. You look at someone like, let's go to A.E. Jones.
Sure.
You've seen that name before, right, Manny?
Biggest winner in one day in DFS history.
Yeah. Did you know that I don't know if I've ever told you this story before, but I was in that live final and we did like equity swaps, and I had 10 people got into the final round.
Correct.
I didn't make it into the final round. And I had 5% at Condia. I think it was Condia. And a buddy of mine had split this ticket because if I won, he got it. If I won, or if he won, we'd split, right? So we have 5%, 2.5% each, but 5 mil was the top. The guy that I had the 5% of was in first place going into it with like a pretty significant lead.
Yeah, Condia.
And I had put it this way.
I remember it vividly when his lineup appeared the next day. I think the whole Twitter was like, "What the heck did he just do?"
Yep. And
what
I don't
on earth did he just play?
Oh, I know, dude. And I don't play the volume that these guys do. So I had a chance to swap with A. Jones. My buddy had contacted me about it. Said, "Look, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "I don't think so. He's at the top. Like he's got a big lead here. What can go wrong?" Well, everything went wrong, and A. Jones ended up winning. Buddy had a chunk of that, and not a huge piece, but you don't need a big piece at 5 mil. So
yeah, no, I remember that vividly. It's like, well,
I lost sleep over that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh wait, Condia has a massive lead heading into the last day. There's no way he loses. I think he did have a 30-point lead going into that slate. A complete disaster of a lineup. I don't know what he was thinking. I have no idea what he was thinking. It was probably the worst thing I've ever seen him play. And it happened to be at the most unopportune time.
Just crazy. By the way, I opened up the wrong contest. I wanted to pull up the like a big contest from Sunday's slate and just see what some of the worst lineups look like. Not
I could show you mine. I got those.
Okay, we could do that.
Yeah, why not? Here, I'll just let me scroll down to the very bottom of my list. I have a lineup that scored 70 points.
Who was in it?
Mahomes, Jamal Williams, Saquon, Mike Evans, Sammy Watkins got a 0. My goodness. Shepard, Henry had 3, Tyrell Williams had 1, and the Cardinals had 0.
Yeah, I mean that. What do you do? Like, how do you?
Kittle had 3. Like, where do you like? It's like I get it. They had bad games, but these are like floor games. Like I didn't even know the floor for Kittle was 3. I didn't know the floor for Tyrell Williams was 1.
Was this your worst week of the year?
It is, yeah. And I thought I had cash 0. I somehow managed to cash a couple lineups. I don't know how. I cashed 8 somehow. I think that's still a fraud. It looks like I cashed 0.
So, yeah, like you said, it's hard to get worse than that, and you just have to go on and move to the next one because most of the players in your lineups, I wouldn't have thought twice about. Like I'd have been like, okay.
No, and it's not. I get it. I was kind of taking stances on some of these guys and wanting to go the other way, right? On some plays. But I got close to some zeros in these lineups. It wasn't even close. That's crazy.
I hear you, man. It's not fun when that happens. But you know what? You move on to the next week. You look at the process and you
For
try
sure.
to figure out what you can do. What you can do better. Michael Rico says basement games. Yeah. When you have basement games and like 5 guys in the same lineup,
Yeah.
that's not fun. But anyway, Manny, close us out. First of all, check out the Cyber Monday deal. Cyber Monday, all one word. $1 for Osmo Platinum, Osmo Plus Platinum Pass for the week. You really cannot beat that. Sign up at Yahoo using the sign up code Osmo and use our link. We'll throw that in chat as well. Get $30 Yahoo Sports Rewards points upon depositing. And hit us with a thumbs up if you enjoy the show. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us every Monday, whether the week went good or bad. We're happy to have everybody, all of our regulars, and anybody new to the channel. Welcome to you as well. If you enjoy the show, hit us with a thumbs up. Also, click the subscribe and notification bell. And Manny, tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, on Twitter at mlaura, Omega lol. You could find me on Fantasy Cruncher. You guys use the tools. We're working on it 24/7. And of course, you can catch my live streams right after this, twitch.tv/mlaura.
That'll do it for us. Thanks for hanging out as always. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Sal Vetri, myself, Dave Lockman on The Strategy Show. And hey, while you're at it, head over to Twitter. Follow us at mlaura, at Laffy_D. Become part of the Twitter fam as well. Hopefully we'll see you over there at awesemo.com. Head into the premium Slack chat when you sign up as well. Talking DFS fantasy sports all day, all night long. There's no better place to be. We'll see you back here tomorrow.